Hello everybody, it's Verda here, and today we're going to be benchmarking the GTX 1650 GDDR6 edition of the graphics card inside of Ark Survival Ascended. I'm pairing it up with an Intel Core i7-4790K with 16GB of DDR3 1600MHz RAM, and I have the latest Nvidia drivers installed, as you can see. So with that, let's jump on in and see if it's playable here. Alright, and here we are in the main menu. We're going to be playing at 1080p to begin with, and I have gone ahead and manually adjusted all of the settings to the lowest because the low preset does leave one setting on medium. I can't remember which setting it is, but it does leave one setting turned up, so I did turn that off as well. So this is truly the lowest settings in the game. So here we are in the game in Ark Survival Ascended, and 1080p lowest settings here on the beach definitely looks pretty horrific, though we are getting around 30 FPS, which is pretty surprising, to be honest. We are clearly completely GPU bound here. Ark Survival Evolved is incredibly GPU intensive, or Ark Survival Ascended rather, sorry. I'm so used to calling it Ark Survival Evolved. Let's go ahead and fly on up. We were in the beach, or we are still in the beach, which is technically the least intensive area. But yeah, here with the 1650, low 1080p, you could technically play like this. If you set an FPS cap, you're going to get rid of some of those stutters. Plus, if you have a more powerful CPU and so on, you probably have better averages. But yeah, it's not the most pleasant experience here. I think it is running better than when I tested the 1063 Gigabyte edition the other week. I think it was like nearly 2 weeks ago that I benchmarked that, and that one didn't run nowhere near as well. Yeah, I think this is running better, and it's most likely to do with the VRAM, because the 1060, even the 3GB edition, is usually more powerful in games where VRAM isn't an issue for it than the 1650. But clearly in Ark, having more VRAM is helping out here. For our actual RAM usage, we're using about 13 gigs right now, so 16 gigs is still going to be enough to play Ark more than likely, or Ark Survival Ascended. Jesus Christ, it looks absolutely terrible. Also, something that I realized is, in order to get the shadows to not look so grainy and stuff, you have to play on pretty much ultra settings. At least that's what I found with my 3060 Ti. I had to play with like pretty much ultra settings to get the grainy shadows to go away, and also the grainy clouds and stuff. It's really awful looking. People did tell me in my previous video with the 1063 gig edition that there are a lot of console commands in this game that you can fiddle around with to get much better performance, but I know from personal experience that doing that kind of stuff in Ark Survival Evolved at least made the game look even worse. So yeah, it's not something that I personally would even consider doing, even if it could give me better performance, because if my game already looks this bad, then, you know, like, how bad is it going to end up actually looking with the console settings turned even lower, right? So yeah, it's playable here, I would say, for some people, maybe if you had a controller, but probably not. Let's lower the resolution down a little bit. All right, so now we're going to try it out at 1600 by 900. It's pretty much a sweet spot between 720p and 1080p. Some games look okay like this, and a lot of laptop players play like this unknowingly. But yeah, we're still using the lowest settings, of course, so let's see how this performs here at 1600 by 900. So yeah, as you can see here, our RAM usage did actually go down by about half a gig, and also our actual VRAM utilization has gone down a little bit. So clearly lowering the resolution has reduced the VRAM usage, or the VRAM allocation at least. The game is not even using 3 gigs right now, apparently. In terms of FPS, we did see an increase by about, I mean, it depends where we are. Like, we're getting like 40 something FPS in some locations, which is playable for Ark, and we're still completely GPU bound. We are pretty much pushing this GPU to its absolute limits, you know, as to what it can actually do here. I say that like that's surprising. This GPU is going to get pushed to its absolute limits in most games, especially ones that look like this, right? Or, well, have the potential to look good. 1% loads have improved a little bit. It is a little bit smoother, and I am just running around. I'm trying not to stay in the same area. You see, we're getting some little FPS drops there, and that is annoying, but you're even going to get those on pretty high-end GPUs, to be honest, with Ark. Ark is a little bit finicky, to be honest. It's not the smoothest experience in this game usually, unless you have like a really solid PC or play on a dedicated server, right? So, but the fact that this CPU plays Ark Survival Ascended so well is kind of insane. Like, yes, we are dropping frames right there, and that was because of the CPU, but the actual fact that we're able to even play this game on a 10-year-old CPU is actually crazy. Nuts. So if you have a little bit more of a powerful budget end CPU that's a bit more modern, you know, it will outperform this. It will outperform this CPU, no doubt, and be way more power efficient, and you'll see much more stable frames. But yeah, this area here is definitely more intensive, and I think it's because we're near the swamp. The swamp on the island on Ark Survival Evolved is the most intensive area in the game on that map, just because there's so much stuff in the swamps, right? We'll go into the redwoods. We'll see what it's like actually in the redwoods. Realistically, you only need to go to the swamp biome in this game to either get some of the swamp creatures that you might not be able to find elsewhere, or to collect like rare mushrooms and rare flowers and stuff really easily, right? And maybe metal farming early on in the game potentially. But yeah, in the redwoods we're actually getting 40s, which is playable for Ark. You only need like 40-45 FPS to play Ark pretty decently, at least the PvE version of the game. I mean, PvP is a completely different ball game, but for PvP you're probably going to turn on all those console settings to make the game look super ugly just to get as much FPS as possible. But I would probably recommend just sticking to Ark Survival Evolved if you're going to play PvP with a GPU like this, because yeah, you're really at a disadvantage if you've got really terrible frames. There's a rat trying to kill me right now. Let me pull my gun out and kill this guy. Excuse me, sir. Oh man, it's really hard to aim at this FPS. There we go. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty okay-ish for the FPS, but it's just the game looks horrendous, guys. The game just looks awful. And we got another stutter there because I haven't been over here yet, so yeah. It's not looking good, guys. We'll try 720p. Alrighty, so for the final test, we're going to be playing at 720p. At least I think this will be the final test. And we're going to be playing on the lowest setting still, of course. Let's see how it is. Okay, so 720p looks hella blurry here for me because I am playing on a little bit of a larger resolution monitor than 1080p. If you were playing on a 1080p monitor at 720p, it doesn't look as bad. It kind of looks like 1080p on a 1440p monitor, for example. But yeah, 720p on a larger monitor definitely just looks pretty bad. And FPS, in all honesty, has not really improved that much. But then again, this area is clearly more intensive than the starting beach. So I actually think this is performing worse than the 1060 now. All right, guys, so I'm back at the starting beach just to compare it to like the 1080p and the 1600 by 900. And as you can see, going from 1080p to 720p, we are like 40 something FPS, so it's actually very similar to 1600 by 900. I'm actually going to check if I even applied it, because it's so similar. Yeah, it's literally the same. So it looks like this GPU is just not... Oh wow, big stutter there. It looks like this GPU is just not going to be able to push any more FPS than this, unfortunately. And the game is looking pretty horrific. I can't believe the FPS is pretty similar to 1600 by 900. I mean, it is a little bit higher here, 40s, 50s. Yeah, I'd probably, if I was going to play this game with this GPU, I would probably just stick to 1600 by 900 and just lose a little bit of performance just for the extra fidelity in the graphics, because it really is a blurry mess here, at least for me. Maybe on a 1080p monitor or a smaller 1080p monitor, it doesn't look as bad, you know, like something like 21 inch or something. It won't look as bad. It really does depend on the resolution that your monitor is and also how large your monitor is. You know, 720p on a 30-something inch monitor is going to look way worse than 720p on a 21-inch monitor. VRAM and RAM usage is pretty much identical to 1600 by 900. It's just this poor little GPU. Like, it's actually, it just does not have the power to get very good FPS in this game, unfortunately. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, because if you can pick one of these up really cheap, this GPU still can play a lot of games. If you can find one at a really good deal, then it might still be worth it for you, but Ark Survival Ascended is not going to be a game you're going to be playing. Maybe Ark Survival Evolved is playable on here. I'll have to try it out. I think I might have benchmarked this GPU on Ark Survival Evolved, but I can't remember, guys. It's been a while if I have, maybe 6 months ago or something. I think I did. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I wouldn't recommend playing this game with a 1650. In terms of how it runs, it actually, on the higher resolutions, it seems to play better than the 3 gig graphics card that I tested 2 weeks ago nearly. But when you turn it down to low settings, it's performing worse than the 1060, just because the 1060 3GB is more powerful. It's just that VRAM holds it back a lot more, you know, for games that need more VRAM. Whereas this game has decent VRAM for how much performance the graphics card actually has, but even still, it's just the graphics card's just not that powerful. But yeah, I've been Verda. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Like the video if you enjoyed it. I don't know what the hell just happened over there. Subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, it was one of these things. And until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and goodbye for now.